Well, it's one of those awkward situations where we're based in Brisbane and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, but our guests are all in the United States and it's now 7 o'clock on American East Standard Time in Florida. And our co-host is based there in Cape Canaveral, and she's actually brought forward today a really interesting lady. We just had a bit of an off-air chat, and without further ado, I'm going to get straight into the story. Hand it over to you, Elise.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm super excited and honored to have my good friend Sherri Divband with us. Sherri is actually one of the most amazing people I know, and that's because she is working with the children, which is our future. And so there's so much to Sherri share about Sherri, and so we're going to try to keep it as much as we can to 1 hour, but for sure we're going to have her back. And so I am going to let Sherri explain to you her spiritual background, how she got to where she is, and most importantly, how she is trying to usher in the new Earth children. So Sherri, it's all yours. Tell us everything.
Oh, well, first of all, Grand Rising and good evening, depending on where you are watching this right now. Thank you so much for having me on this broadcast. It's an honor to be here with both of you and all of those watching. To tell you what I do now, I got to start somewhat at the beginning. I'm going to skip over a little bit and I'm going to skip to animals. So my spiritual awakening had a lot to do with the animal kingdom. So I was an only child, had teen parents, a good amount of trauma growing up. And I'm not going to get into that in this show. But my mom got me a German Shepherd puppy when I was young. And this dog honestly saved my life, and she became my best friend. And so she was the catalyst for, I think, everything I did that point moving forward. I really had a deep love, respect, and connection with all animals because of her. So she was my best friend. I talked to her. We did everything together. I played Barbies with her. I didn't have any siblings, and we moved around a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was bullied. And so I really started to pay attention more to the animal kingdom and how beautiful animals are in comparison to my experience and my perception from a young age that adults, many of which in my life were arrogant, mean, abusive, narcissistic, and just horrible to me. And so I really grew up with this distrust of humanity. And I grew a deep love and compassion for the animal kingdom. So my idea was that I was going to be a veterinarian. So in high school, my idea was I'm going to show the animals all the love and that they gave me throughout my childhood, because they really saved me and showed me what unconditional love really felt like, that I felt like I was missing, that I wasn't getting. And I can tell from a young age, animals really were unconditional in their love for us. And no matter what we did, what we said, they were always there. You know, and adults, in my experience, that wasn't the same. There was resentment and conflict and lies and things like that. So I thought, I'm going to heal all the animals and I'm going to dedicate my life to animals. And the reason I was doing that, though, was because I thought I could hide from humanity. And so I did. I tried. So I went into veterinary medicine at a young age, very young. I was probably 17 when I started my journey as a kennel technician, and I worked my way to a nurse. And I decided in my career working in general practice that I actually enjoyed working with animals in a nursing capacity instead. Now, in animal medicine, that's known as a veterinary technician, but it's essentially a nurse. And so I followed that route because the veterinarians were the ones that were doing, quote, negotiations and talking to the people. And remember, to me, people were mean and I didn't want to be around them. So I wanted to be in the back with the animals doing the treatments. So I did that for over 20 years. I worked as a veterinary technician in general practice and emergency. And I worked in one of the top critical care centers in Los Angeles, California for years, and then critical care I did in Maryland. And I also did exotics. And then I transitioned into the National Zoo. So I worked at the National Zoo for 10 years in Washington, D.C. So I was with the animals for a very long time, and I dedicated my life to animals. Now, the catch here is that the animals were the catalyst for me to learn energy healing, because I saw animals in the worst possible shape working in the ICU. I wanted some better way. I felt like there was more we could do to heal them, even though I worked in the top center in all, I think, the country at that time. We had all the resources, all the medications you can imagine. They weren't, many of them wouldn't make it. And so I wanted to learn energy healing. And so I did animal communication. I started doing energy healing for animals. And then I started a side business. And so animals were the one in my animal communication sessions that started telling me that the reason they had anxiety, because people would reach out and say, Sherri, can you do a reading on my dog? My dog has severe anxiety. And when I would connect with the dog or the cat, they would tell me that they were taking on the anxiety, for example, of their companion, their adult companion, their human companion. And I was hearing that so many times. And remember, I'm shy, I'm introverted, I don't really want to talk to people. And I'm thinking, oh my, you want me to tell your mom that? And it was really hard for me to basically say, well, they're telling me that you're the one that needs to work on anxiety. And so that the animal kingdom gently introduced me to working with people and being open to healing people, because the animals told me that we are the ones that have the limiting belief system and the traumas, and they're here to support us. And so the best way I can support the animals is by supporting the people. And so I transitioned over to working with people. I have to rewind really quickly. While I was a veterinary technician, I became a young mom at 23. To me, that was young. I wasn't ready for it. It was a oopsie surprise. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because of my traumas. The animals were my safe haven. So when I went to work and I worked with the animals, they were my everything. They gave me a purpose for life. Everything was about animals. Outside of work, I was very unhappy, very in my shadow side, doing destructive behavior. And very dark, not dark in the sense like I hurt anybody, but I just didn't care about life or myself. So when I was working with the animals, that was the only time I was really happy. And my heart was closed off, essentially. I met my husband now 23 years ago. He snapped me out of my funk, and I say he saved my life. He saved me from myself. And 2 years later, we had our first son. And my son, who is a crystal child, is the true catalyst of my first awakening, spiritual awakening, facilitated by the animals, I believe. But he opened up that closed heart. It was so closed off. And that opened up all of my spiritual gifts that I had suppressed and activated. And I started to look at humanity from eyes of compassion that I had lost. So I was only looking at animals through the eyes of compassion and hatred and distrust for people. And that my son opened my heart and made me reprogrammed everything in my mind to, wait a second, it's possible that these people went through traumas, and there's a reason why humanity is so horrible, because maybe they had abuse. There's a reason for it. And so I really wanted to create a better world for my son and be a better version of myself for my son. And so I had a second son 7 years later, and I had another layer of awakening, and my gifts came in even stronger. So all of this is happening as I'm a vet tech, as I'm working at the zoo, as I have an animal communication business. Like, all of this is all happening simultaneously. Do you want me to stop here, Elisa, or should I keep going?
No, so that continue.
Okay.
How did you get from here to, being developing all the children, because you started working with the children? So yeah.
So each one of my children, basically, the first two were served as layers of my opening, activation, and awakening. And then my daughter came to me as a soul about a year or so before she was even conceived or thought about. And she's told me, I'm coming into your life and we have I have a legacy and I need your help, and I'm going to be coming in. You're going to be my mother and I need your permission. And I'm letting you know ahead of time that we have a lot of work to do together, and letting me know in advance that she was coming in. And so of course I said, yes, absolutely. But I wasn't really, I don't want to use the word allowed, but for lack of a better word right now, I wasn't really allowed or given the exact legacy or job we would do together, other than it was going to be really significant and really important. So of course I was intrigued. And what happened was I channeled her soul telepathically for an entire year before she was even conceived. And she taught me almost everything I know. She taught me about New Earth children. She taught me about the different types of children and how different children were being born and coming into this world, and that they're different. And there's a reason for this difference. This is before I even knew what the ascension was. I didn't know what any of this was back then. This is like 2000 and maybe 12, 13. I don't know what any of that's about. So she's teaching me, and I'm channeling and I'm writing, and she's basically preparing me for her arrival. So by the time she was born, I knew so much more than I had ever known. And I realized that what she was talking about, because I was a big Dolores Cann fan, and I read almost all of her books, she's referring to the fourth wave. So these children coming in were the fourth wave of volunteers to come in to help humanity continue to evolve. And so Aramis was born. And because of her, she was the catalyst, I believe, to me attracting a lot of children that were labeled on the spectrum. I don't like to use the word autism, Asperger's, ADHD, dyslexia, because part of my work is delabeling, disconnecting from labels. But I've started to attract the nonverbal children, the children that wouldn't look in people's eyes, weren't walking for 2-3 years, very behind developmentally. And the parents, I somehow became known as the woman that can communicate with the souls of these children to find out why they had this, at the time, perceivable disadvantage. Something was wrong with them. So the parents actually came to me and said, can you heal my son or my daughter from autism? And I didn't really know much about autism at that point, because my boys and my girl didn't have anything relatable to that. So it was really new to me. So I learned on the job. And so the souls of these children started to explain to me what was actually going on, how they were being misperceived. And I learned a lot, which I won't say all of it right now, because I want to give you guys a chance to ask more questions. But that led to me realizing years later, around the time of the pandemic, that my role to play with Aramis, my daughter, is that she came in here as a starseed to help me create conscious education and to work with families with very psychic, spirited, ascended souls that we know as children of the new generation. And so my work consists of working with families and highly psychic children, helping them navigate the challenges of being labeled, and working on conscious education. So that's everything in a nutshell.
Yes. Yes. And then, as if that wasn't enough, tell everybody what you decided to do, because what you've created up to this point and what you are going to create physically as well, with an actual building and everything, but what you've created so far to get to the next step, which is to have that physical building.
Right. Yes. And so around the time of COVID, I had this grand epiphany. This is what I thought that my daughter and I were here to do together, because I had a wellness center at that time. While I was working at the zoo, I simultaneously opened up my own practice, and I had a wellness center where I did all sorts of esoteric metaphysical services for adults and children. And I taught classes. And so the parents were asking me, can you teach my child about crystals? They're really interested. Can you teach Reiki to my child as well? They're really interested in energy healing, or they're suffering from night terrors. Can you help them learn to protect themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So my grand epiphany was, oh my gosh, this is what Aramis and I are supposed to do together. I'm going to open up a metaphysical center for children, like a kind of like a Sunday school type of thing. And that's what I thought we were here to do together. She was supposed to like be the catalyst to help these New Earth children navigate and to activate and help humanity kind of understand why they're different. But then when we had the whole education system, people having to stay at home, and during that period of lockdown, it was a learning experience for me. And I realized that that was only the small fraction or piece of the puzzle of what the real problem was. The root problem is the education system, and it's just not anymore, or ever has been, in my opinion, a one-size-fits-all approach. And I really started to pay attention more to the indoctrination of these children and how they're all lumped together. And I can give a million examples of that. And so what I did is I said, you know what? I'm creating not a metaphysical center, but I'm going to create a conscious educational approach to learning. So a center where children can come and learn in an environment that they are free to be themselves, where they are not labeled, where we have patient mentors, and it's a completely no curriculum, different style of learning, incorporating animals. So I started a nonprofit called the Aramis Collective, and the Aramis Creative Learning Center is the actual online school platform. So for the past 5 years, we have been teaching classes every single month hundreds. You can go and see some of the classes that we've taught in our in the history of the classes, anywhere from mindfulness, math, spiritual science, energy clearing, spirit animals, you name it, we've taught it. And it's supposed to help children learn the things that they're not learning in indoctrination schools. And the grand plan all the way back then was, okay, I'm going to open up physical centers. And I started public speaking about it. I started going to conferences. I became a public speaker against my wishes, because I'm not really that outgoing of a person. I don't like to be the center of attention, but I made myself go out in front of big audiences. Some of them were 1,000 people. And I talked about, this is a problem and I have the solution. I have a solution. And we need to offer an alternative approach to learning, not for everybody, but parents should have a choice. And so I started to attract a very large following over the last 5 years through podcasts, public speaking. I've written 10 children's books. I had an cartoon animation series. I also have written 5 adult books. And throughout that time, we moved to Florida to open the very first physical location called the Aramis Creative Learning Center. And the idea is to open one in almost every city, in every state, and expand internationally over the next 15 to 20 years, so that there is an Aramis Creative Learning Center everywhere. Just like we have public school, there is an Aramis Creative Learning Center for families who want something different for their children and a different experience. And it's a nonprofit. So it's humanitarian. It's a humanitarian project, essentially. And what that means is that we are not looking for investors. We are looking for angel donors, a collection of donors who resonate and align with this approach and want to help us open the first center and get the kind of the foundation going. And then we will expand from there. And I know once we get the first center open and we raise the money that we need to get the first location open, people will be throwing money at us to make more of them, because my idea, which I can't really take credit for, it comes from my daughter and many of the children that I work with that I do sessions for. They've told me, I said, what do you want? And what I've created is what they've told me they want. And so that's where we are right now. We're in the process of raising money to open the first physical location here in Florida.
So what is it that they want? Tell me more about that.
So what they are asking for is, number one, they want us to, part of the role of New Earth children here is to break the adults, the previous generations, out of our programming. Because, and I'm sure your audience is well aware, that the reality that we are in is designed, no matter where you live in the world, is designed in a lower vibrational loose style system, where it thrives in negativity, and it operates through programming. There are many different types of programming, and I call it 3D interference in my books. So there's a lot of 3D interference, and what that does is it suppresses us and places adults and previous generations in loops, survival loops. So we're constantly feeling like we need to work, and it's Groundhog's Day, and it's a nice assembly line. And the way they do that is they start with children at a young age in school, and they indoctrinate them and train them through memorization, test taking, and get them prepared to be adults. So they're, well-mannered, easy members of society that don't ask questions and follow the person in front of them. And society runs very smoothly for those that benefit from that. And so the children, and this is generational. So if you look at my mother's generation and my grandmother's generation, this has happened in phases, like Dolores Cannon talked about. So the first wave of volunteers struggled a lot because those people came in the 1950s, and we weren't ready for that. There was too much indoctrination, too much programming going on, and they really struggled, and they really had a hard time. That's the first set of indigos. And then the next set of indigos came in like the 70s, 60s and 70s, and then they got involved in drugs and alcohol, and they got distracted. But every group has paved the way a little bit to make changes, so we can deprogram and unravel the layers of our programming and manipulation. And so my generation is here to, I believe, bring in these new starseeds. And each generation will bring in more advanced starseeds that have different abilities. But they're really part of what they're here to wake us up. So to break us from our loops, our repetitive loops, our redundant loops of abandonment issues, lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence, being in the ego, being a service to self, being very selfish, driven by money, driven by power. And the famous quote of, why do you do it this way? Oh, because it's always been done that way. And well, the children of today are no longer accepting that as an answer. I accepted that as an answer because I was a girl that was terrified of, getting in trouble. So I was like, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. But the children of today are like, well, why? That doesn't make sense. Explain it to me more. And then they'll still tell us that we're wrong. So they're here to break us of our programming, activate us, and to wake us up. And that is happening. And that's been happening since about early 2000. And each wave of children come in with different gifts. Each group of children has a category, not to label them, but unique characteristics that are necessary at that time in order to help humanity move forward and activate. And what I mean by that is my first son, Jordan, he's now 20, almost 21. He came in 2005. He is the first group after the indigos to come in, and they're known as the crystal children. So they're right now they're probably anywhere from 18 to early 30s. And they are the heart openers. They came to bring love back into humanity and to activate and awaken society so that we can open up these hearts that are closed off through trauma and ancestral trauma and epigenetics. We carry in quantum entanglement, we carry a lot of these traumas, and they just keep being passed on generation after generation. Then the next group were the star group, and they are the intellects, the ones that are often labeled with Asperger's or autism in some way because they're highly intellectual. A lot of them don't even come from this planet, so they don't know how to use the body. They don't like to look people straight in the eyes because they see through the soul. I've been told by children they don't like looking at adults in the eyes because they can see their demons. They get very overwhelmed. They can see your intentions. They can see everything. It's very overwhelming to them. A lot of them won't speak because they don't want to use our word spells. They realize that the words we use are programs as well. So they're also encouraging us to communicate telepathically, heart to heart, so that we can go back to communicating that way through our heart space, as opposed to just using words that are very limiting. So the star group is the next group, and they struggle a lot because they're highly intelligent, but they don't like to be children. They have a high IQ. They're the engineers, innovators, architects of the new world, and they struggle a lot. Crystals struggle a lot because they're highly sensitive. So they are very empathic, very emotional. They don't like conflict. They don't do well with arguments. They're friends with everybody. They're peacekeepers. Then after that, the rainbow children came, and those are the warriors. So the warrior spirits are still being born, and they're up to like maybe 15, 16 right now. And they are highly spirited. They don't take no for an answer. They are argumentative. They are the leaders of the future. And they need to be the way they are because they are going to go against the hardest of the hardest generations that are so embedded and cemented in their programming that they don't want change. And these children are going to demand change, whether you like it or not. And they will fight till the end until they get it because they're practicing right now for the future, because they will be the leaders of the future. Now, they won't have to be warriors and fight so much later on, but they do right now. So they're the most challenging to parent. So to answer your question, Elisa, what they're asking for is, one, for us to activate, awaken, and really go within and work through our traumas so we can heal. And if we can heal, we can shift our perspective, look at our life from a bird's eye perspective, and we can break the programming and start to see things from a different viewpoint and start to, instead of judging each other or hating each other through division tactics, we look at each other through eyes of compassion and unity. And that's what they're here to teach us. So the conscious educational approach to learning is threefold for me. It's three pillars. One, I was told by horses about 5 years ago, started coming into my sessions with children and said, we are asking to be part of the New Earth schools because we are going to help children expand their auric field and help them heal their own traumas, their own anxieties, because the children pick up on our anxiety. That's why we have such heightened anxiety with children right now. So the horses are like, let us come into these centers and let them be around animals. That's what my newest book, Healing the Human Animal Bond, is about. Repairing that fragmented severed bond that the dark ones have tried to separate us from the animal kingdom. So a big pillar of Aramis is about being around animal, having children learn around animals. The center pillar is all about project-based learning. So they get to learn what they want to learn, how they want to learn it, as often as they want to learn it without a curriculum. It sounds very disorganized, but I promise you, if you look on my website, it's very organized. It's like a college campus where you choose your children's classes for the month based on what is offered. So if your children is very art driven and really not good at math, they could take creative classes 75% of the week, and then maybe a couple of days a week they focus project-based learning with incorporating math, so they get the basics down, but they really get to find their passion and experiment and learn what it is that they are good at, so that we can help foster that and kind of help direct them in what it is that they're good at, instead of making everybody take the exact same classes. And then the third approach, or the third column of Aramis, is about health and wellness. So I'm obviously a big health and wellness practitioner because I do energy healing and I'm a master hypnotherapist. I am a big fan of natural healing. And so we will have a state-of-the-art healing center on every single campus where children will have access to go into this healing center and learn about the equipment, learn about red light therapy, PEMP mats, what is frequency healing, what is biohacking, what is a crystal healing room, and how does it work, and how does it interact with our energy, and crystals and tuning forks, a healing, what is it called, a harmonic egg. So there will be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of beautiful equipment, not just for show, for the children to learn from the young age of 5 how to go in and heal themselves. So if they have a stomach ache, they go in there and they're guided by the mentors in the healing center of, okay, well, let's talk about what's going on with you and let's see which one of these modalities works. So they learn from a young age, instead of grabbing a pill or being sent home, they can try all of these different techniques, and they learn from a young age how to heal themselves naturally, and or how to use the equipment that we have offered. So those are the 3 pillars.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. And I also wanted you to tell people, what are the things, I felt it was really important in your book about the things that are being done to the children, starting from when they're being born and they're being ripped out of their mother's hands and cutting the cord and doing all these things. You know, they're already traumatized from the time they are out of the womb to it just continues, right? Because when they go to the schools, then they're having this energy, not word of God, what's it called? They can hear in their
The voice to God technology.
Yeah, voice to God technology that's telling them they're worthless and blah, blah, blah. So I just want you to touch a little bit on that so people have awareness in case their children hate going to school, that maybe it's they understand why, and they're not pushing their children if maybe they understand why this is happening. So just if you can just touch a little bit, I mean, they can go by the book and read it, but give them a little bit of what's happening, and then they can get the details in the book.
Yeah, no, it's actually really important to talk about. And, I believe that and I know that every single person that comes into this planet as a soul has a unique soul signature, just like a fingerprint. So as you come in through the etherical birth portal, which everybody does, if you incarnate as a human, you are tagged, and they know, the beings of this planet know who comes in, where you come from, what your life plan is, what you're here to do. And so their idea is they're going to traumatize you and lower your vibration and dim your light from the moment you come in. And honestly, it starts with the pregnancy. So they target the moms while the baby's in the womb. And then as soon as the baby comes out, the practice of the childbirth itself, the laboring and childbirth, is so convoluted and done so incorrectly, all designed very medically based, where women are laying on their backs, they're given pain medication, they cut the cords way too quickly. Everything that they do to birth our children is incorrect, and it traumatizes the child, and it causes etherical viruses. So if there's a trauma as a soul comes through the etherical birth portal, they can actually get etherical viruses that can actually manifest as physical illness. My daughter got that, and she had RSV at 5 weeks old and was hospitalized because she got that etherical virus. Then, of course, I'll be careful with my words, but then they do a lot of these and introduce a lot of toxins into the body. And then we have other 3D interference with toxins in the food, the atmosphere, the environment. Now, schools have a satellite system set up through government programs where they emit frequencies. And this is not a conspiracy. I mean, they're even talking about it in movies right now. So it's not even, you can't even call it a conspiracy anymore, where they have proven technology that will emit frequencies that will implant suggestions in your consciousness. And it works on people as well. And this started back in Montauk program, but it's gotten so much more evolved. And the way I learned about this, because I'm not a researcher, I had a session with a young boy one day, and the mom asked, why is he kicking and screaming every time he gets near the school? And this kid was like 6 years old. And she said, I cannot get him out of the car. I physically have to drag him in the school, and he never will calm down the whole time. So I'm asking this child, I said, what's going on? And he said, the whole time I'm there, I feel sick to my stomach, and I'm hearing voices in my head that I'm not good enough, that I'm bad, and your parents don't love me, and like all of these horrible things. That was the first time I had ever heard of that. It was subsequent sessions later that I learned of voice. They call it voice to God technology. There's also voice to skull technology. There's lots of different terminology for it, but they actually they place grid systems over public schools. And the schools themselves are also designed to create a prison-like environment where there's the fluorescent lighting, the children are forced to sit still for 6 hours at a time, limited playtime, limited creativity. It's all about lecture, memorization, standardized testing, and lack of creativity. And so it's an indoctrination camp, and they're designed like prisons. And so it's a lot more complicated than that. But if a child is saying that they don't feel good, excuse me, when they go to school, or they have a lot of fear, they're likely tapping into these frequencies that are coming through. And I hear it every day. So I know that they're not making it up, because I hear out of children's mouth all the time from the ages of kindergarten through high school. And they're saying, Sherri, every time I walk into the school, I have negative thoughts. I have thoughts of suicide. I have anxiety. All of a sudden, my heart starts beating fast. I don't feel good. I don't feel safe. And this is happening all over the world. It's not just in the United States. It's not just in certain countries. And it's done by technology that's emitted through towers, satellite, many different ways. It's done that way. So there's also gifted and talented programs and secret government programs of what they're doing with the children in the school. That's a whole other episode we can get into. That's a whole other topic. But the public school system is not created for children to learn and thrive. It's simply to indoctrinate and prepare them for adulthood so that they can be factory workers, which is initially why they started school in the begin with, because they wanted children to grow up and work in factories. So they needed to get their mindset ready to be in a very monotonous job where you just don't really do much, and there's not a lot of creativity involved, and you don't ask a lot of questions. And so these children have been programmed into that system, indoctrination system, since the mid 1900s. So this has been going on. The curriculum that they are using does not benefit the child. It benefits the system, so that when they go into college, they can pick a career path, and then they can just be productive members of society in their mind, with limited capacity and potential, and work for someone else, work for the man, until they retire. If they ever make enough money, they're always in survival mode, and no one ever gets a chance to be creative or enjoy or explore their life, because the jobs of creativity, those are the ones that are they don't make any money. The artists, the musicians, unless you sell your soul and you're part of that music industry. Right. The true creators are not able to be creators, and the true healers don't make money doing that, because our system is designed to limit that capacity.
Yeah. And so Joyce was asking if your educational centers have a Faraday cage around them to protect them from the voice to skull.
Well, I don't have a physical center yet, but I am working with a large team of people with so much amazing technology that we are going to use something like Tesla tower technology, where it emits 432 hertz continuously to create harmony, and grids to block. It's like a Faraday cage, but not. But yes, I mean, we have thought of everything.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's FLFE over here, which is Force Life. I don't remember the rest of it, but they beam that energy into your house. So that also can be used as well. And it's only $35 a month. So you just give them an address and they'll beam I think it's 528 to the house, I think. But it can go even higher. They can go up to 600 and 800.
I'll have to get that information back from you. Ask about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always try to keep everything lighthearted and 5D and high vibrational. And I also don't like to give this kind of thing energy. But in this case, I do think it's important when parents have a child that is having a temper tantrum and just cries and cries and cries and cries. Well, I feel like it's important to mentioned that there could be another reason why. And so that's why I'm taking the time to talk about more negative stuff. And it's because, my children cried when I took them to school, and I was like, hey, I got to go to work, tough shit, like, so, it's about learning and really understanding the children, especially if they're children that have special needs. They are nonverbal. So, even more, right, to try to understand where this is coming from. And so it's a great idea to get somebody like Sherri or another person that's psychic as well, somebody that can speak to the children and really understand what's happening there.
Yeah, and sometimes the answer that I receive from children is not that they're worried about speaking the word spells, or it's not anything like that. Some of these children are actually here in their first earthling kind of incarnation. So they come from a place that speaks where their civilization is full telepathic communicators, or they speak in tones or harmonies. And so a lot of times they get a little bit embarrassed. And so many of these labeled autistic children are in observation periods. So for years, sometimes they are watching how we walk, how we move. So there's delays in that, and they walk on their tippy toes. They're trying to figure out how to use the body and the feet. Maybe they've never had feet before. Maybe they're avian species. Who knows? There's lots of reasons. And they're observing. They're observing their environment, how we move our mouth, how we enunciate the words that come out. And that's why a lot of nonverbal children seemingly spontaneously will start speaking at like 3, 4, 5 years old in full sentences. And we're like, what the heck? Well, they've just been observing this whole time. And then they finally felt comfortable expressing themselves because they felt like they reached a point where they can communicate and understand or understand our language the way we communicate, because it's not something that they're used to doing. And so that is also a big part of these new earth children. They're coming from all over the place. They're coming from the Pleiades. They're coming from Arcturus. They're coming from, some of them are guardian spirits. So they are galactic guardians, like whales, felines, avian spirits. They are coming from inner earth. They're coming from the angelic realm. There are more fairies on this planet than I have ever seen before in my career. The animal kingdom is very active right now and working in trying to harmonize and help these children acclimate. And so the issue that we're seeing is a lot of these parents are buying into the 3D narrative that something is wrong with their children. And I'm going to tell you something back, which I was alluding to, and then I went off topic. Because the soul signature and them knowing that we have special children coming in, I believe that they purposely have been targeting our children for probably 20, 25 years to suppress. And they created these labels so that they can convince humanity, as well as the parents and the teachers, that there is something abnormal about that child or those children. So it would give them an excuse to convince the parents to medicate them. And then the parents, thinking that they're doing the right thing, says, oh my gosh, yeah. And they do it, and willingly. So it's like, there's so much illusion and trickery in this reality. It's absurd and so convoluted. But that's the way that they are trying to suppress the children. But I'm going to tell you something, because like you said, I talk about these things and I write about these books not to scare people. I think knowledge is power. And that's one thing that they've taken from us over generations, is knowledge. They try to keep the true knowledge from us, the sacred knowledge. That's why elders are separated from families now, because they don't want the wisdom to be passed down. So the elders are getting what I believe are diseases that they've created, so that they are not in the right mindset, or they get dementia and things like that, so that they cannot pass the knowledge on. And so they are trying to prevent and block these children from blossoming, and they're traumatizing them, and they're using music and programming, subliminal messaging, movies, anything that they can do They are trying to suppress the children, dim their light, scare the children through horror movies, but also tricking the parents into believing that there's something wrong with their children and they need to be medicated. And these poor children, when they get medicated, their light, it does lower their frequency, and they do become a different version of themselves, and they dissociate and they begin. So I'm not a doctor. I need to make that claim. I am not telling anybody not to medicate their child. I'm just trying to explain what is likely happening. And the reason why Elisa mentioned these children have these breakdowns is because they are advanced beings trying to operate a very primal young version of a human body that doesn't have the ability to articulate both verbally or just energetically how to process and release their frustrations for many reasons. And so their way of actually getting our attention to say, please, I need help, is by yelling, hitting, screaming, acting out. That's their way of getting our attention, saying, please, somebody help me. And that's why a lot of these children have such severe anxiety right now, because they are anxiety. In my book, I call anxiety a 3D virus. It's our body's way of letting us know it's an alarm going off saying something's not right. Something's not right. There's entities in this reality that are bombarding me. There's negative energy. There's satellite technology. The music is altered to like 440 hertz. Then that disrupts and disharmonizes their auric field. I mean, like literally almost everything in our environment is designed to suppress the light of these children. But the cool thing about it is the newer children coming in, probably around the age of 12 and less, are so much more advanced because, like I said, we come in phases that nothing is working on them, meaning they are disruptors. They are breaking down the matrix. They are none of these things are working on them. Like they're just in such a high frequency that they are kind of just floating above the 3D, and they are just holding space as bridges, and they are not affected as much as the generations that came right before them, who are a little bit affected. So every generation coming in seems to be able to hold even higher frequency than the generation before. And that has to do with our 3D bodies taking time to activate, to get into that crystalline structure, and to reshape this spiritual blueprint that overlaps with the physical 3D DNA, and an integration has to occur. And so that integration process keeps shifting and advancing as we go. So the younger the children, the more advanced they are, meaning they're more psychic, they're remembering their past lives, they're telling their parents about how they died in another life, how they were their mother in another lifetime, how they died on Mars, how they were in a secret space program. I mean, these children are absolutely coming in completely like turned on. Like their gifts are already there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they're coming here to be teachers, right? So the idea is that now they're here to teach us how not to live, and how all these preconceived ideas, and to question, like you said, well, why is that? Why is that? So there are our teachers. And it's important, I think, for people as well to understand that. Listen to your child. What are they saying? Pay attention, not just blow them off like, yeah, whatever, like just really pay attention to what they're saying, because they are here to be our teachers now. And so that's also important to me for people to know that that's what they are here. It's one of the reasons they are here. And to touch on the medication thing, I was one of the parents that believed I needed to medicate my child, which I did. And funny enough, maybe 3 years into it, 4 years into it, the medicine stopped working.
Yeah. And that's happening a lot. Like these children, the medication isn't even working on them. So it's clearly like the pharmaceuticals are not working in the same way, because the physiology of these children's bodies is physically changing at a cellular level. Also, the high vibration of the energy coming through is transmuting. So their diet, they're more sensitive to the sugary, processed, junk food that's not real, and they're demanding more of a pure diet. Like they have to. That's why so many children have so many more allergies than they've ever had before, because they're in such a high frequency mode that their body is requiring higher frequency food and nourishment. And it's all about intuition and what you feel, depending on your blood type does matter, and certain things matter to what your body requires versus somebody else. But another thing I'm seeing is that, and I was told this years ago, we are going to eat 2/3 less food than we are right now. And I said this at a speech in 2023. I don't remember what year this child told me this was going to happen, but I think she said somewhere around by 2030. So, in the next 5 years, I believe as a collective, we are going to start to require at least 2/3 less food than we are eating right now. And we can all agree we definitely overeat. We don't need a lot of this food. They do that so that they can keep us mobile and cause ease in our body, because the less mobile we are, they pack us in like sardines, then they can loosh off of the density. If we move around and we're more mobile and we exercise and we have lighter energy and more nourishing foods, then they can't stop the activations. And so a lot of that is nefarious. So somebody asked about secret space. I think they're thinking that I'm saying that space is secret. I just want to go back to that comment. I'm not saying space is secret, or I'm not a flat earther. What I meant by that is that there are secret space programs, secret government programs that some of these children are recruited for. And there are a million movies that depict that. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they come and showcase them when they're little to see their psychic abilities, and then they'll take the really psychic ones and go do testing, because they're going to be placed in, very special, hot, advanced classes. And in the end, it's just them using the child for their own nefarious purposes. But of course, all this information is for entertainment purposes only. So, as you know,
right. Yeah. It's just movies. It's speculation. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But, a lot of this is just, it's a convoluted reality. I think we're seeing through the illusion. To sum it up, I think children are really here to help activate us, awaken us. And part of that activation and awakening, and why my daughter came into this life, is because no matter how advanced these children are, our role right now is to get our, excuse my language, to get our shit together and heal, and to be the facilitators and to help them. Like, they need the adults to do the groundwork. Like, instead of complaining about the education system, do something to change it. If you don't like something else, be an advocate or be part of the change. And it doesn't have to be violence. It doesn't have to, it could be just co-creation. It could be thought forms. It could be whatever it is that you want to do. But they need our help. They need our support. They need us as parents to understand them, to support them, to let them be who they are. And so my focus is creating conscious education so that these children can thrive. And so the future generations can come in a completely different environment. And we really can create a new earth, but they need our help. They need the adults to get on board with this so that we can help them. They can't do it on their own.
Right. Absolutely. And with only about 6 minutes left, I wanted to make sure that I am clear as to, do you still have sessions open to help the children, to talk to the children that need help or whatever?
I do. So my website is sherridivband.com. That's my main website. And I do sessions for adults and I do sessions for children. So those are done on a limited basis because I do a lot of conferences. I do a lot of travel. I'm doing retreats. as well this coming year. I'm doing a lot in 2026, and I'm trying to get a school open. So I am networking, trying to get angel donors to believe in this concept to help us get the first one open. But I do sessions 3 days a week for adults and children. And then aramiscreativelearning.com is the website if you want to look at classes for children. They're all virtual and they change every month. So right now we happen to be on winter break. It's December, it's the holiday season, but every month we have anywhere from 5 to 15 classes being offered, generally evenings or weekends. So we can accommodate even the school, even the children that go to public school. And they range, they change every month depending on what the mentors want to teach. And that has been going on for 5 years, and that will continue to go on so that we can offer classes for children worldwide, depending on the time zone.
Okay. And then also we want to mention, and I know you mentioned it, but it was fast. You also have the videos, the cartoon videos that you've created for the children as well. And is that on the YouTube channel, on Sherri Divband YouTube channel?
There's a link on my YouTube channel to, I don't know how to find it this way, but I think there's like on every channel you can recommend a channel.
Yes.
And it's a link to that. I think it's called Divinely Guided Children Media. Now, full disclosure, I need people to know that I started those cartoons 5 years ago. I paid for them out of my own budget, so they are very low budget cartoons. In the beginning, the first 5 episodes are a little bit embarrassing because it was almost I can't even watch it now, but the kids love them. We have about 18 episodes, but I highly recommend going on Amazon and checking out the books, because the books are inspired from the animation cartoons. So we have 10 of those. And children love our Divinely Guided Children book series because each book talks about a different topic, just like the animation cartoon. But go ahead and check out the animation cartoons as well, but be kind because it's low budget.
Okay, well, good, because I did want to mention as well that you did also the books for the children as well. So you have books for adults that you wrote as you were waking up and getting knowledge, and then you've written like what, 5 books for adults?
I have 5 books for adults, 10 children's books.
Okay, and 10 children's books. I'm not sure. It's hard to believe that you've done this. I really think you have a clone and you don't even know it, but because you're Superwoman. And it's just amazing, really, all you have accomplished and you seem to accomplish. I don't know how you do it, but I am just so grateful for your dedication to humanity, for your dedication to the children. And really, truly, it's just, you do so much and you just never stop. And it's just amazing. So, and anything that people can do to support your website or support you or support the school or whatever it is, it's just, I just would be so grateful, because this person is just an angel on earth. And again, all for the children and the animals, right? Which are what? They are the beings that need support. Both animals and children need the support of the adult human beings.
Exactly. Yeah. And no donation is too small. I mean, we get a good number of smaller donations from people that want to support, and that pays for legal fees, keeping the websites going, paying our mentors, things like that. So that's always appreciated. But if you know anybody that's interested in supporting a charity or wants a tax write-off, as long as we have that still going, and is looking to support and has extra, disposable income, if we want to say that, they can reach out to me personally, and we are looking for angel donors to help us get this going. My goal, I'm putting this out there, is we will open in September of 2026 in 10-acre lot here in Loxahatchee, Florida. I'm going to make it happen, and so by coming on these radio shows and talk shows and conferences, I'm hoping that the right people will see it and say, I want to help and reach out. And that's how we're doing it.
Beautiful. I just send all the energy that I can to that vision. And, I'm so grateful that you came and you were able to make it today, and really grateful for you being here and for the work that you're doing for humanity. And it's time to go. I know you have to go somewhere else. So I do want to tell everybody before we go that we are off for the holidays. So happy holidays, everybody. We'll be back January 20th. And we hope to see you back. And Sherri, again, thank you so much. And
thank
Jeff,
you so much for having me.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, very much so. Again, Elise, thank you for coming on board. And it's been an eventful, coming up for 7 years now. Yeah, I would say Merry Christmas, to be perfectly honest. Happy New Year.
Okay. Yeah, same to
Happy
you.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's been a privilege to listen to you. There's a lot of salient points there that just tick the boxes. I'm really on board with what you've said. I've come across so many people who speak the same language as you. It's just phenomenal. And we have had people come on and do equine therapy, where they work with the horses, and we've had animal whisperers. Fantastic. It just echoes what I originally said at the beginning. You can be anywhere on this planet, and it just means that when you reach out to your tribe, and your tribe's everywhere, the jigsaw puzzle comes together and you're not alone.
Absolutely.
And that's very special. And we very much like to invite you back again. There's no question about it. Yeah.
I would absolutely be honored to come back and elaborate on some of these things. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Stay there.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Go back to our traditional radio programming. Thank you.